My adopted sister declared she was an only child, erased me from family photos. But her true colors exposed at party, and now she's begging to stay. After 3 years of fostering, we adopted Sam at 10. She liked our 7-year-old Ella. Sam pretended Ella didn't exist in high school. The only child, Sam announced. She hid Ella's photos and made the second bedroom a guest room for students. Sam, 15, would block the doorway and say, "The adults are talking. Go play somewhere else." Ella felt like a neighbor kid who'd strayed in. Sam cropped Ava from family photos on social media. Every family vacation photo she posted was modified to eliminate her sibling. She tagged photos, "Only child life means all the attention," and "So blessed my parents chose me, and only me." Ella queries were deleted. She spent years writing her parents' miracle baby story. She informed her students that her parents loved and adopted her because they couldn't have children. Sam remarked that teachers at conferences with both kids would mistake us for another family. She changed greatly at home. After we departed, she told Ella, "I'll get you into boarding school when I'm 18. Because Sam claimed we'd be unhappy with Ella for making problems, she didn't tell us about her concern about being sent away. School events were terrible, so Sam volunteered at the check-in desk and declared Ella absent. Sam lied about Ella's art display, piano concert, and science fair dates and times, removing her professors' emails before we saw them. Sam also sent Ella on errands at family occasions to keep her away. Ella returned inside to find everyone dining and no spot for her. Sam shrugged and said, "I thought you already ate." She stole Ella's birthday cards and money from family and donated her duplicate parcels. Ella shut down at family dinners after 4 years of Sam erasing her sibling while we worked and missed the symptoms. Sam's high school graduation party was a disaster since she was taught to be quiet at home. We invited extended family, teachers, and friends. Sam exhibited a slideshow of her childhood to highlight her growth. Sam didn't know Ella's teacher, Mrs. Thompson, was suspicious of why we never answered her letters about Ella's troubles, so she documented everything and contacted my sister, who confirmed we had 2 girls. Mrs. Thompson rose as Sam alone at birthday celebrations, Christmas mornings without Ella's presence, and vacation photos with awful Photoshop removing individuals displayed. "Where's your other daughter in these images, Ella?" Sam whitened. "I have no sister," she said. Sis took her phone. She sent the attendees the original images via airdrop. Sam's best friend Caroline screamed, "Ella came in with a package that looked like nothing but everyone knew would crush us. You told me you were an only child." The package hit the gift table and made everyone jump, then Ava tipped it over. Dozens of birthday cards in their envelopes with my mother and sister's handwriting fell first. I didn't recognize the handwriting because we'd never received them. My mother's ancestral jewelry flashed as it fell across the table. Sam had worn the necklace to a family supper 2 years previously and told everyone our mother gave it to her. Ella placed a school-use spiral notebook on top of the pile as the last thing out of the box. Nobody moved. The slideshow behind Sam showed Sam alone at the beach, where both girls built sandcastles. As Mrs. Thompson approached the table and opened the notebook to a random page, she cleared her throat and read her March email about Ella skipping an art event. I felt cold and heavy. After that, Mrs. Thompson sent 7 more emails, each more worrisome than the last, wondering why we weren't answering and if everything was well at home. They were all erased before we saw them. She said she started keeping notes when she believed something was. Sam retreated to the door as her face changed white to deep scarlet, like before vomiting or fainting. Sam stood alone by the Christmas tree as visitors flipped between Sam's slideshows changing photographs and my sister's airdropped shots. Cousin showed her phone to the next person. Ella sat next to her with a morning-purchased teddy bear. Samantha reached the door. Caroline sprang up so fast her chair tumbled over and approached Sam with her phone. Everyone could hear her weak voice as she claimed 3 years as Sam's best friend, 3 years of sleepovers, late-night discussions, and sharing everything. Sam told her about being an only child, and how her parents adopted her following infertility. Caroline cringed as she showed a phone photo of both girls at Ella's 13th birthday party, and asked Sam how many more lies she'd told. She wondered whether their friendship was false. Sam answered nothing. He stopped Sam from leaving and told her to stay in a harsh, flat and hard voice. I was trapped between my kids. Ella stood taller than before, shoulders back and chin up. On the table were stolen cards and packages, and that journal of 4 years of abuse. Sam had nowhere to hide. People left in tiny groups, talking, going out. My husband stopped to let them pass, but watched Sam. Relatives looked at us like bad parents for not realizing their kid was gone. A distant aunt took her luggage and went without saying goodbye. My sister grabbed the notebook from the present table and read it with Mrs. Thompson, gently flipping pages. Sam reclined on the couch, knees to her chest, ignoring everyone. The notepad was thick, maybe 80 pages, and my sister reported Ella's handwriting, dates, and TI. Sam told my parents wouldn't attend my piano concert on March 15th, put Grandma's birthday card in her backpack on April 3rd, and shut me out for supper on May 22nd and told everyone I'd eaten. Reading that one aloud destroyed Mrs. Thompson's voice. Sam offered Ella boarding school, hid photos, intercepted email, and made Ella miss important school events. My younger daughter chronicled her erasure for 4 years because she was afraid to tell us. Made myself walk to Sam. I felt like someone else owned my legs. I sat on the couch next to her and tried to sound normal when I asked her to explain. She squeezed her knees and muttered, "I didn't understand." I waited. She repeated, "Help me understand. Then tell me why." My husband opened a $50 birthday card from his mother, who was proud of Ella for earning honor roll. 2 years previously, he opened another from my aunt with Ella's favorite bookshop gift card. Each card contained money or gift cards and a note from a family member wanting to stay in touch with Ella. His hands started shaking. Mrs. Thompson held my shoulder as my husband read card after card from family who must have felt we were keeping Ella away. The business card from Mrs. Thompson's purse showed Grace Turner as a family therapist specializing in sibling conflict and adoption. She recommended us to call Grace immediately because she had helped other families through difficult times. We sat in the living room surrounded by evidence after Mrs. Thompson and my sister left. Birthday cards and gifts were still on the gift table. Ella's October journal entry showed Sam telling her she'd be sent away. 4 years. How do you handle this? How do you start the conversation? My husband looked at me, unsure. Ella softly got up and went up the stairs. I heard her bedroom door close and the lock click. I set the lock 3 years ago when she begged for privacy, thinking it was normal teen behavior. I asked to sit with her but she declined. I rested my forehead against the door and attempted to say something, but it was absurd and hollow. "I'm sorry. Feels like nothing after 4 years." Returned downstairs. Sam stayed on the couch while my husband carefully turned pages in the notepad. Sam said Ella was dramatic and purposely made her look terrible. Husband's head snapped. He raged about falsehoods, stolen cards, and 4 years of torture. Sam made her sister invisible in her own home. When he said Ella was afraid and we were blind, his voice cracked. After Sam grieved, my husband left, telling her to remember that she hurt someone she loved and trusted, and nearly killed her sister. I heard his garage door open and car start. I sat with Sam as she cried into her knees. I wanted to calm her, shake her, and ask how she did it, but I felt like I was drowning. Sam stopped crying, got up, and went to her room without looking at me. I started reading it 4 years and 2 months after Sam started high school on the couch, surrounded by money-filled birthday cards, unopened deliveries, and that dreadful notepad. I read Ella's handwritten entries, dates and times regarding every lie, deception, every time she felt out of place in her family. We misinterpreted her immobility as teenage moodiness and missed the clues. Our husband arrived fatigued after midnight. I didn't inquire where he was. One notebook held Sam's social media screenshots of modified photographs and captions about being an only kid. Another contained written emails between Sam and her friends. Sam handwrote lists of Ella's school activities to destroy them. Her laptop had an open, only child story document with bullet points of lies she told to clarify her story. Each piece of evidence made it worse. I thought of all the times Ella attempted to tell us something was wrong, but we were too busy, weary, or engaged on work to listen. In the morning, neither of us had slept. Sam came downstairs like usual and asked when we were leaving for her graduation breakfast. We planned a large brunch at her favorite restaurant with extended family. She asked in her pajamas in the kitchen like last night hadn't happened. My spouse stared at her before telling her there would be no brunch. My spouse said he had 4 years of evidence and scores of witnesses. He told Sam not to call Ella a liar, and Sam screamed that we supported Ella, that she was our biological daughter and we always loved her more, and that her efforts were never enough. Our ridiculous sibling conflict was destroying her life, she complained. Husband told her to go to room. She yelled that he couldn't tell her what to do at 18. Sitting in the kitchen listening to the doors crash, I realized Sam felt victimized and thought we overreacted. Nothing worried me more than that. I went upstairs to check on Ava. Her door was bolted. I knocked and called her. No response. I banged again. My stomach dropped when I heard movement and a sound within. Her breathing was quick and rough, like she was out of air. I shouted her name and ran downstairs with my spouse to call her from outside. She said she couldn't breathe, so my husband removed the lock with a screwdriver. Ava was hyperventilating on her bed with her knees up and her lips blue. My spouse sat across from her and held her hand. She said she was terrified when she could talk. Samantha said Sam always warned her we would send her away at 18 and swore to convince us we only needed one daughter once she stopped pretending. She waited 4 years for us to tell her to go and asked if we were sending her to boarding school. 1 hour of chatting and sitting with her relaxed her enough to trust us not to send her away. My husband asked Mrs. Thompson for advice and she told us to take Ella to the doctor immediately because this anxiety was too much. She gave us Ella's pediatrician's number and told us to call when they opened and say it was urgent. Ella stared at her hands in the waiting area for our afternoon appointment. When the doctor called back, she asked about her mood. Ella talked about 4 years of threats, manipulation, and captivity. She started sleeping soundly 2 years ago because she was frightened we'd take her to boarding school if she woke up. Her mail was taken and she missed family and school events. Ella saved the notepad because she believed no one would believe her without proof. The doctor listened and examined Ella's fear, sleep and safety, diagnosing severe anxiety. Ella had lived in terror and hypervigilance at home for 4 years, and she warned that continuous psychological abuse may affect her mental health and development. She prescribed anti-anxiety medication and ordered her to start therapy immediately. Ella needed help urgently, so she recommended 3 teenage trauma therapists and told us to call them all today. Chronic psychological assault takes time to recover, so we expected a long road. We left the doctor with a prescription, 3 phone numbers, and guilt over letting our daughter suffer for 4 years. My sister submitted the original photos to the family group chat, and my aunt questioned Sam's edited images. I explained everything from my car in the work parking lot because I couldn't go inside. My cousin called next, so I rehashed everything. Reminding myself that we'd ignored 4 years of violence at home made me feel smaller and more embarrassed. My uncle treated Sam. My husband's sister called to say we were overreacting, that sisters sometimes fight. She defensively said we were being too difficult on Sam when I told her this wasn't usual sibling rivalry. Later that day his brother called to say the same. After a week, half the family supported us, while the other half thought we were wasting Sam's life. The gap made things worse. Sam received a college email 4 days after the party. With a strange look, she stepped downstairs with her phone and stated the admissions office wanted her to call. I stared at my spouse but didn't say anything. She called from upstairs and got louder. 20 minutes later, she came down crying. A graduation party member alerted the university, and the admissions office warned her of uncomfortable character information and wanted to debate her enrollment. She begged us to rectify it and cried more. He shouted at her to accept the consequences of her actions. She cried and ran upstairs, but my husband grabbed my elbow and shook his head. After Ella returned from my sister's house, we planned a family gathering for that night. The 4 of us sat in the living room and started shouting within 5 minutes. Sam said Ella was lying and intentionally making things worse. Hearing my kid cry in her room hurt my chest, but I knew he was right. Ella sat silently before playing a 6-month-old covert audio recording. Sam spoke clearly and coldly, informing Ella that when she turned 18, she would convince us to send her to boarding school because we only needed one daughter. Ella nodded when my husband requested for more recordings and stated she stored many in a hidden folder since she knew no one would believe her without proof. Sam blanched white at her own voice and Ella refused her phone grab. Sam stared at the floor when asked what she wanted to say. She murmured that she was sorry, but couldn't explain why. After Ella went to bed, my husband and I discussed future steps. We disagreed on anything so important for the first time in our marriage. He wanted Sam to stay home for a year to make atonement and grow, while I worried about her future and whether college would heal everyone. He got angry and said I was again putting Sam's comfort before Ella's safety. I angrily stated I was thinking for both children. We battled for nearly an hour, getting louder and more agitated. He reminded me of all the times I'd dismissed Sam's actions, saying he was too busy at work. We argued about our work schedules and how we'd failed as parents by focusing on our careers. He said we shouldn't have worked so hard when the girls needed us home, but I maintained we both made that decision. We rarely spoke before bed. I recognized this had harmed our marriage as I lay awake. We'd always worked together, but now we were on opposite sides trying to fix something we'd both ruined. The next morning, I took Ella to her first trauma-focused teen psychologist visit. Ella waited next to me, plucking her nails without looking at me. When the therapist called back, she introduced herself and detailed the session. Ella let me stay and answered easy school and hobby questions. A compassionate therapist kept asking questions until Ella spoke up about home life after 20 minutes. She felt invisible and in continual panic in her family. Therapists listened and took notes. Ella said she hadn't slept well in 2 years because she was always worried about Sam. Ella departed for the waiting room, so the therapist wanted to talk alone. She told me Ella had been in terror and needed twice-weekly sessions for 6 months to regain her sense of safety and self-worth. I tried not to cry. Ella was strong and would mend with support, but it would take time. 2 days later, Caroline, Sam's best friend, unexpectedly visited our house and requested to speak to Sam. She had a red face and tense jaw. After I called Sam downstairs, they went to the front yard and raged so loudly that neighbors came out to watch within minutes. Sam heard Caroline felt betrayed and used and didn't know if she could forgive Sam because their friendship was based on her lies. Sam said she just wanted to fit in, and didn't. Caroline interrupted her and said constructing a phony life and removing your sister was enormous. After trusting Sam and sharing her sensitive things, she didn't know what was true and what was a lie. Sam cried and stated she lied about having a sister and their bond. Caroline left after telling Sam to stop contacting her. Sam wailed in the yard as 3 neighbors observed from their porches. My husband dragged her home and she closed her door upstairs. The next afternoon, Ella's school counselor, David Collins, called to address her academic condition. He had a pile of documents on his desk and told us Ella's grades had dropped from an A to barely passing most subjects in 4 years. He showed us school activities attendance figures. At least 15 events where Ella registered but was absent. He took sign-in sheets from the school talent event, art exhibition, and club meetings. Each had Ella's name and a note saying she didn't show up. My husband wondered how that was possible since Ella was at school. Mr. Collins said Ella was marked absent at the check-in desks before. After the graduation party, Mrs. Thompson informed Mr. Collins that Sam had offered to keep her sister out. He claimed Ella was smart but hindered by circumstances and suggested longer exam time, class breaks for anxiety, and summer school to make up for missing opportunities. He urged her to refocus intellectually. I thanked him and we agreed to meet again to create an accommodation plan. That night, a college admissions representative notified Sam that they were delaying her character evaluation registration due to context. My husband and I spent 2 hours writing a cryptic email about severe family trouble at the kitchen table. Honesty was important, but we didn't want to hurt her future. Sam apologized and accepted responsibility, and we noted that she'd always been a good student but could improve. My husband reread it 3 times before submitting. The college may have reconsidered or rejected her, but I knew every choice was wrong. My mother called 2 days after my sister told her. She rapidly blasted our parenting without basis, stating Sam behaved out because we prioritized Ava because she was our biological child. I told her the opposite, but she ignored me and said we probably made Sam feel like an outsider in her family. She stated sibling rivalry was typical and we overreacted by calling therapists and universities, which enraged me. She thought we were too hard on Sam and didn't understand adoption. I hung up after telling her she didn't know what she was talking about because she hadn't experienced Ella's experience. She was outraged and called me disrespectful. My husband's brother contacted him that day and stated we turned Sam into a villain when she was confused. My husband hung up after a fierce disagreement. Our extended family was divided that night. Some understood what happened, while others concerned we were damaging Sam's life. I was devastated when Ella asked to remain with my sister 4 weeks after graduation because she felt unsafe with Sam at home. Even though it hurt to admit our house wasn't secure for her, my husband and I agreed to let her go. Ella packed a bag with clothes and books while Sam stood in the doorway with an incomprehensible face. Ella quietly passed her and went downstairs with her bag. My sister arrived 20 minutes later and helped Ella pack the car, glaring at me and chastising us. My spouse hugged me and I leaned on him. We lost both children differently. One didn't trust us, and one destroyed it. Sam went downstairs the next morning and made cereal like usual. My husband stopped when he saw her on her phone at the kitchen table. We discussed what to do until 3 in the morning and decided to approach Sam with everything. My spouse sat across from her in a chair and I sat next to him. Sam looked up from her phone confusedly, like she didn't understand why we were looking at her. My husband recommended discussing Sam's attack on Ella. Sam dropped her spoon and became defensive. She started talking, but my husband held up his hand and urged her to listen. I told Sam that Sam's attack on Ella constituted abuse, not sibling rivalry. Sam's eyes widened as she continued. We were dramatic. My husband said, "No, we weren't being dramatic at all. Sam had spent 4 years trying to erase her sister, deceived everyone, and snatched Ella. Sam cried and apologized for upsetting Ella repeatedly. Her voice shook and she couldn't say what she was sorry for. My husband stepped forward and told her that wasn't enough. I called the family therapist number Mrs. Thompson gave me and Grace Turner answered. I described who I was and why I was calling, and my voice broke midway. After thanking Grace, I hung up and stared at my phone. I walked down the hall to tell my husband about the appointment while he worked in his office. He rarely looked up from his computer. My husband thought we should have seen something was wrong. But I said Sam was good at hiding it, and we didn't. He said we should have been home more, but I maintained we worked equally. House tension made breathing difficult. I might cry while doing laundry or making coffee. Ella hardly spoke at dinners, stopped inviting us to school events, and we felt her anxiety attacks were teenage stress. We failed her. Sam's college wrote 3 days later. I opened the admissions office letter on the driveway, feeling apprehensive. Sam's registration was delayed 1 year, and her entrance would be revisited if she improved and completed community service. They questioned her character and maturity. I silently handed Sam the letter in her room. She read it, turning white, then blamed Ella for wrecking her life. My wrath shook me. I told Sam Ella didn't hurt anything. Sam destroyed it by lying and manipulating everyone for 4 years. Sam cried again and said it wasn't fair. I showed my spouse the letter upstairs. He told her she was lucky the college didn't reject her and that she'd spend the year at home making atonement and learning morality. Sam flung the letter on the floor and yelled, "We opposed." My husband talked quietly, but was upset when he informed Sam she had to face her decision's repercussions. Sam wanted to go to college and start again, but she stayed here to deal with it. On Thursday, Grace Turner, perhaps in her 50s with gray hair and a lovely face, introduced herself and inquired where Ella was. Grace nodded and invited us into her therapy office, which had a couch, seats, and a corner desk. Ella stayed with my sister and didn't want to come with Sam. Grace stared at the three of us and said Mrs. Thompson had provided her background but wanted to hear from us. Sam stated everyone was exaggerating as my husband narrated what happened. Grace held up her hand and told Sam she'd talk later. Grace took notes and asked questions. She stopped writing after 20 minutes and said she needed to be honest. She said family therapy with us right now would be harmful because Ella needed security and control. Being forced into a room with Sam could worsen things. Grace suggested starting with solo sessions for my husband and I and each kid, then family sessions when everyone was ready, stressing Ella's healing. Sam objected, but Grace glanced at her and said no. Sam followed Ella's instructions to restore her sister-sister relationship. Grace questioned us about our work schedules, weekly hours, meal frequency, and comprehension of the kids' everyday life at our Grace parent visit the following Tuesday. My husband and I traveled silently. Grace inquired how we ignored 4 years of relentless maltreatment at home. My husband cried and put his head in his hands. I told Grace we were too career-focused because Sam's responsibility made us think the girls were okay, and Ella was a gloomy teen. Grace didn't blame us, but she advised family commitments. Grace stated Ella needed substantial change from us. Words fell short. We had to demonstrate her by our actions that we picked her and were present. My husband agreed fast. I hesitated because of money, but I agreed. No. We agreed when Grace asked whether we knew Ella's trust restoration would take months or years and if we faulted each other. My husband and I gazed at each other and I acknowledged we fought regularly. Grace said it was natural but we should work through it together. Grace saw Sam alone the next day after my spouse and I waited an hour in the lobby. Grace suggested us to return without Sam after the session. I was overwhelmed by all the therapy we required. Grace sat down and told Sam he had adoption-related attachment issues and abandonment phobia. Adoptees often feel uneasy in their homes. Requested Reds is on Spotify. Ella's biological birth verified Sam's deepest fear that we didn't need her, therefore she tried to terminate our love rivalry. Grace added that this doesn't condone Sam's behavior but explains the psychology. Grace suggested Sam see Grace's husband, Lucas Turner, an adoption psychologist, for adoption trauma treatment. Grace stated she was still thinking about it. My husband asked Grace how long empathy takes. Grace said, "Maybe years." This was difficult to solve. We left with solutions but overwhelmed. Ella saw Grace alone 2 days later. My sister drove her and waited while they talked. Grace invited us to come in without Ella. Grace seemed serious when we sat down. She stated Ella's session demonstrated the complete harm. Ella dreamed of being sent away practically every. Grace said Ella has long-term psychological scars and will take time to recover. We prioritized her safety before Sam's. We couldn't compel Ella to forgive or move on until she was ready, so whenever their needs conflicted, we picked Ella over Sam. My husband agreed immediately. I didn't want to abandon Sam, but Grace was right. She recognized my anxiety and offered couples counseling to balance Ella's recovery with supporting both girls. I called a couples therapist that week. My sister took Ella home for supervision Saturday afternoon. Sam grumbled but didn't argue when my husband told her to stay in her room until Ella departed. He closed her door and came downstairs. Ella arrived impatiently. Ella said, "Okay," when my husband asked about school and her classmates in the living room. We watched a light movie and Ella laughed at a joke on the couch. My sister smiled at me. Ella seemed calmer than in years, not guarding the door or scared of every sound. She was pleased in her home, despite her tension. Ella brought a book from upstairs after the movie and peered at me from the door before asking to live with my sister. I struggled to speak. Ella consented and left with my sister. They drove away as my husband and I looked from the doorway. He hugged me and I leaned on him. We stood motionless. Sam started working with Lucas Turner the week after. Lucas was younger than expected and grinned freely when we visited his shop in Grace's building. He begged seating to mention that Sam had internalized the idea that adoption made her replaceable. Lucas said Sam wanted to make Ella invisible to decrease competition. Without Ella, Sam couldn't be replaced. Lucas labeled this a trauma response rooted in concern about her family position. My spouse inquired if Sam was culpable for her acts. Lucas stated intellectual awareness was beginning, but emotional understanding would take longer. Trauma drove Sam to hurt her sister daily for 4 years, but it didn't justify her acts. This explanation satisfied my spouse, who wanted us to feel sorry for Sam and forget Ella. Grace and Lucas discussed both women and made recommendations next week. Lucas advised Sam to accept responsibility for her behavior and overcome her trauma. Grace advised us to set new family boundaries immediately. Sam required a part-time job and community service to learn responsibility and constructive contribution, so my husband and I decreased our work hours to be home more. Ella chose when and how to interact with Sam. I read and agreed to Grace's written rules and expectations. Sam and I examined them that night. She crossed her arms. After we finished, she said unjust. My husband sounded harsh and warned her she would suffer consequences, not punishment. Sam didn't see the difference. My husband told Sam she had to apologize and prove herself trustworthy after injuring her sister. Sam shouted and said everyone was making her a villain, but he told her she shouldn't be surprised after 4 years of villainy. Sam thought she was the victim and that Ella picked everything without her involvement. My spouse told her that was the plan, and that Ella's needs came first. Sam must accept that. The next morning, I received 17 family group chat text messages. Aunt. Adopted kids have trauma, and we should understand her fear. Cousin. Trauma doesn't excuse years of maltreatment. Another aunt said Ella was dramatic and siblings fought often. My uncle called Sam manipulative and claimed we should have recognized indications. Family fighting continued all day. My husband's brother told him that we failed both girls by working too much. My mother called to say half the family believed we were overreacting and half thought we were poor parents. I shut off my phone at night because I couldn't stand non-victim perspectives. My husband and I decided at the kitchen table to separate ourselves from extended family throughout therapy. We needed it, but it was lonely. 3 days later, my sister called to say Ella wanted to return but had conditions. She wanted Sam to stay in her room while we watched. She wanted the right to leave immediately if uncomfortable, and she needed safety measures. My husband and I agreed. That Friday, my sister brought Ella home for a trial weekend. My sister watched Ella all weekend to safeguard her. On Saturday morning, Sam walked downstairs with a granola bar from the kitchen and returned upstairs silently. Ella tensed. After Ella requested a new inside-only bedroom door lock one Sunday morning, my husband drove to the hardware shop and spent an hour installing it. My sister hugged Ella and praised her bravery after she tested it 3 times and threatened to move in permanently if the lock and constraints didn't change. Ella closed her door after my sister left, and I heard her crying through the walls. Grace organized our first combined family therapy appointment for Monday morning the following week and explained over the phone for 30 minutes that Ella would tell her tale and Sam would listen without fighting or apologizing. We drove silently to Grace's office on session day, where the waiting area had nice chairs and landscape paintings, but my hands shook. Grace sat us in a circle. Ella read from her documentation notebook when asked about her experiences. Samantha detailed her initial proclamation that she was an only child, and how Sam locked her out of a family activity. Grace stopped Sam from crying after 5 minutes of reading and told Ella to speak. Ella read for 20 minutes, and I sobbed too. When Sam learned Ella was harmed, Grace pressed her to clarify. Grace stopped Sam from saying she didn't mean things to go that bad, stressing she didn't ask for it. This 90-minute session was the worst hour and a half of my life. Sam fell against our car in the parking lot, weeping that everyone hated her and her life was ended. My husband and I waited there, wondering how to console Ella, while Rodrigo left to talk to Sam alone. Ella looked ahead without saying while I held her hand. Through the windshield, I noticed Rodrigo and Sam talking quietly on the curb. After 15 minutes, my husband started crying, and I realized I'd never seen him cry. He felt he had failed his children in different ways. We drove home silently after Sam was red-eyed but stopped crying as Rodrigo led her to the car. That night, my husband and I hugged in bed, emotionally weary and unsure of how to go. 2 weeks later, Sam went home crying from her part-time work at a nearby restaurant, alleging the management was unfair and out for her. She said she did everything right but was punished for unjustifiable things. My spouse called the restaurant and she was told Sam was late for her shifts, insulted customers, and blamed other servers for lost orders. Sam ignored the warnings. After thanking her, my husband hung up and ordered Sam to work fast since we'd ceased supporting her victimhood. Sam argued, but my husband shouted to stop making excuses and own her actions and attitude. Ella started summer school the following week to make up for missing opportunities. She picked creative writing and painting classes in 2 little classrooms with teachers who knew her situation. Her art teacher wrote home after the first week saying she was bright and engaged. She engaged gladly and did well. The creative writing teacher called to tell Ella had written a beautiful personal essay and sought permission to put it in a contest. I consented and felt delighted watching Ella bloom with support. I was heartbroken we hadn't witnessed her struggle earlier. For 4 years we missed all the symptoms of her home anxiety holding her back, but seeing her grow now showed it. The next week, Sam made a breakthrough in therapy. Rodrigo questioned her whether she knew she was doing something wrong to understand her motivation and fear. Sam was quiet for a while before answering yes. She recognized it was dreadful but couldn't stop because she was afraid of losing us. She said we always imagined we would love Ella more since she was our biological child. She believed she could only protect her family by making Ella invisible. Sam sobbed and said she understood but couldn't solve it. Rodrigo listened and explained her how her nervousness eliminated competition and made us mistrust her honesty. Grace brought restorative justice to our next therapy appointment and told Sam to apologize to Ella meaningfully. Grace prepared in her office as we waited. Rodrigo informed her that comprehending was the first step, but mending it would take time. Sam wrote letters of apology to everyone she lied about Ella, returned all stolen goods and money, and helped Ella repair her relationships with estranged relatives while folding her arms and listening. When Grace asked if she understood, she nodded but showed she was doing it because she had to. Sam shrugged and answered, "No." My spouse grabbed my hand. We knew it would take time. Sam texted Mama about the ancestral necklace first. After she gave it to us to send, I read it before sealing the envelope. Sam admitted to stealing the necklace and lying about it. She apologized for preventing my mother from dating Ella and returned it immediately. 2 days later, Mom called me crying in the kitchen and apologized for her parenting mistakes. She wanted Ella to recuperate, so she gave her a grandmother-granddaughter vacation, a full weekend alone with them. When I told Ella she could try, she bit her lip and looked confused. Did she have to leave? I reminded her. After some thought, she agreed. I was glad at least one family relationship was healing. The following week, my husband and I began couples therapy with another couple. In our first visit, we sat opposite couch ends. "What brought us in?" said the therapist. The spouse blamed me for not seeing the girls, and I blamed him. The therapist listened and showed us we'd failed our children by choosing work over family and ignoring warnings. We started weekly date nights on Friday, examined our feelings daily, even for 5 minutes, and stopped ignoring each other. My spouse grabbed my hand across the couch. Sam started working at a nearby grocery store as a midnight bagger. She complained about boredom the first week, but she stopped by the second. Her manager contacted at month's end to tell Sam was doing well. She arrived on time and treated customers well. Sam looked at her first paycheck at the kitchen table, proud. The majority went into her savings account and the remainder went for Ella's painting supplies, which she had wanted for months. Once Sam dropped the gift on her desk with a "sorry" note, Ella greeted him heartily but sounded flat and returned the goods to her room. Grace advised Ella tell Sam how the 4 years had affected her in our next family therapy meeting. Ella leaned forward in her chair and told Sam about her nightmares and panic attacks. She felt worthless at home and feared daily expulsion. Ella said she felt insignificant. Sam listened patiently, not interrupting, apologizing, or defending herself. Ella ended gently. Samantha said, "I'm sorry. We invited Ella's schoolmates and supportive family to her 17th birthday party the next weekend and adorned the living space with streamers and balloons in her favorite colors. Grace remarked Sam had never been so accountable in a brief but meaningful period. Sam set her dinner table, brought drinks, and hung the banner over the entrance without being asked. At the celebration, she didn't talk or promote herself, she just helped. After unwrapping a gift from my sister late in the celebration, Ella grinned and looked at Sam, who smiled back. My spouse grabbed my arm and we felt like we'd seen something impossible. Rodrigo requested a meeting without the girls and we met in his office Tuesday afternoon. He told us Sam was learning something vital. Our love was enough for both daughters, but she couldn't accept it emotionally. Rodriguez looked at us carefully and predicted years, possibly decades, of treatment for Sam to grasp the concept. Some adoption trauma takes a lifetime to repair. Ella desired ice cream with Sam Thursday night while I prepared. No parents. I nearly dropped my knife. Ella nervously shifted weight as she wanted to talk to Sam alone. We informed her we supported her choices, and Sam drove away in Sam's car. Sam entered the kitchen and reported their chat without explanation. She appeared exhausted but undefended, with sunk shoulders and red, sobbing eyes. I felt they were getting closer. Grace suggested we write a family purpose statement for our next family therapy meeting. I recommended honesty, husband showed respect, Ella wanted to accommodate everyone, and Sam talked. Ella contemplated her. They typed it when she nodded and said, "Okay." Grace helped us form exact words. We printed and framed a whole page of pledges that weekend. Grace said it reminded us of our resolve to change and might be utilized when things became tough. On Friday, my spouse received news from work. My employer offered me a promotion, which entailed more hours and frequent travel but promised a substantial rise and better benefits. At supper, my husband said he would decline and tell his supervisor the next day that his family needed him now, delay promotion. Upon hearing his choice, I cried. We finally prioritized family, so we celebrated with takeout and a movie. Sam appeared to understand, thanking Dad gently before bed. It seemed like we were all on the same page for the first time in years. 2 weeks previously, the college admissions office had emailed that they would reconsider Sam's enrollment if she wrote a personal statement on her learning. We met in the living room on a Saturday afternoon to discuss her college plans. For a month, Sam sat on the couch with a notepad in her lap, working on the essay with Rodrigo. Ella was at her friend's house. Sam opened the journal and started reading. Her voice shook at first, but stabilized as she wrote about her horror that caused her to kill. My spouse and I stared at one another when she completed reading about her treatment and community service that taught her accountability and times she hurt her sister. My husband nodded when I told Sam the essay was nice, showing comprehension. Sam closed the notepad and inquired if the college would accept it. Ella smiled when she entered the kitchen where I was cooking on her first day of junior year with her knapsack over one shoulder, left it by the stairs and joined the debate club and school newspaper. Ella continued weekly treatment and managed her anxiety, which created stiff shoulders and fast breathing when agitated. My husband pulled Ella's file at his office the Tuesday after Mr. Collins phoned me to review Ella's development 2 weeks into school. Ella's improvement shocked him. Her teachers stated she participated in class discussions and did well. She volunteered for Mental Health Awareness Week. Mr. Collins thought Ella's sympathies and experiences would make her a good psychologist. Sam shakenly took his college letter from the mailbox in early October and brought it inside. She gazed at the mail in the kitchen before opening it. My husband and I waited. She tore it open and read softly. Tearful, she looked up. She was accepted for spring semester re-enrollment and could start in January with therapy. Sam agreed while reviewing the rules. Do anything they want, she said. To celebrate, we got pizza that night. Sam watched Ella across the table, worried but excited. Ella looked, thought, and said all right after dropping her pizza piece. She suggested they talk monthly if Sam wanted. Sam beamed. I observed as growing up as sisters became harder, but more authentic. In late October, my mother called to organize the first family gathering since graduation. I was frightened, but I tried forwarding at my mother's house on Sunday afternoon with most of the extended family. Sam stayed nearby and Ella took my hand. My aunt arrived first. I noticed my mother's serious back porch conversation with Ella after lunch. Uncle told Sam about college plans and was glad she was trying to fix things. After returning inside, Ella's eyes were red but she appeared lighter. My mother subsequently regretted not being more engaged with Ella, claiming she'd judged our parenting too quickly without supporting her. Sam had multiple midday relatives visits. Some family members stayed away. People tried but some issues were hard. Leaving looked like progress. Our treatment appointment the following week was odd. Grace placed us in circles and asked us to share one lesson from everything that happened. Ella said she learned to speak and set limits since silence nearly destroyed her. Sam spoke next. She whispered, "Fear and insecurity can injure your loved ones." She understood. She tried to reduce the rivalry to avoid losing us. Healthy families didn't fight for affection. I came last. I said our family was stronger than I expected, even broken. He spent years chasing promotions and higher pay while disregarding his family. He discovered his girls valued his care over money. Grace nods. She stated those insights showed growth and reminded us that knowing wasn't healing. We still had work. Sam gave me papers mid-November and requested me to read a 6-page letter to Ella about how she wounded her by deleting the art exhibit email, stealing the heritage necklace, and locking her outside at the family reunion. Sam wrote about each situation and what she would have done differently, acknowledging the pain and choice of each action. She signed off by saying she understood if Ella never forgave her. She wrote this not to ask for forgiveness, but because Ella deserved to know someone remembered and acknowledged her wrong. Ella found the note on her desk before bed and returned downstairs with red eyes an hour later, so we knew it meant something to her. Sarah returned the letter upstairs and put it in her nightstand drawer. She folded and kept it tenderly. December brought new family traditions. Every Sunday dinner we discussed our week's highlights. Sunday dinners were tense with extended silences. There were no family diary entries for days until Sam thanked Ella for video conferencing. Ella visited a museum in December and Sam proposed ice skating in January. We joked more and had less dark silences. I entered the living room on Thursday night to find Ella and Sam on the couch laughing. Ella's phone flashed outdated photos. Sam pointed at one and talked about a childhood holiday. Ella giggled. They remembered a funny moment before things went bad. I cried and went to the back porch. Minutes later, my spouse hugged me and asked if I was okay. I nodded and told him what I witnessed, bringing me close. We stood together, knowing we were experiencing something unexpected, our girls reconnecting. Our last family therapy visit 4 months after the graduation party, Grace sat across from us with notes praising our work and identifying changes. Sam taking responsibility, Ella speaking out, and my husband and I being more present. Grace reported great progress, reminding us that healing is a process, setbacks are inevitable, and honesty and effort are necessary. She offered individual treatment for both kids and couples counseling for my husband and me, but she was shifting us from intense family therapy to monthly check-ins. She thought we could handle more sessions on our own, but we could call. We thanked her. Grace laughed when Sam wondered if she failed us by not repairing everything. Families are fixed, living systems evolved. Our health improved. That counted. Sam left for college early on January 15th. The week before, she packed and sat on Ella's bed one afternoon. Sam was scared about leaving and didn't want their relationship to stop again. Ella agreed to talk. Ella spent hours in her room that night. After supper, she brought a newspaper-wrapped box down to Sam, who looked surprised. Sam gingerly opened it and found a care package with snacks, blanket, family photos, and a good luck message. Sam looked at the photos with tears in her eyes and trembled as she whispered, "Thank you." Ella uncomfortably held her, but it was heartfelt. I looked across the kitchen doorway at my husband. Our last night with Sam went faster than imagined. We watched a new comedy on the couch with popcorn and Ella in the midst, presumably on purpose. Her legs wrapped under her, she watched the movie silently for 20 minutes, giggling when anything humorous happened. Sound filled the living room for the first time in years. Midway through the movie, Sam gives the couch cushion palm up near Ella's knee. Ella looks down and pauses before attaching her fingers to Sam's. The girls stayed that way throughout the film. I saw my husband crying when I peeked over their heads. He nodded and said we didn't need to discuss. We left early on Saturday morning for Sam's college, 4 hours away. Ella rode with me while Sam sat in the back with boxes and bags. My husband drove and played music without complaint. Sam and Ella got pancakes and waffles at a diner halfway there for lunch, playfully arguing over which was better. As the elevator broke, we lugged everything up 3 flights of steps to Sam's modest room with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a quad-view window. We unpacked on the window bed as her roommate hadn't arrived. Ella strung string lights over the bed as Sam organized her desk. My husband built a little bookcase we bought. Sam chose the bedding I used to make the bed. Parents and roommate Jessie arrived an hour later. After asking Ella if she was Sam's sister, Sam quickly threw her arm around Ella's shoulders and replied, "Yes, this is my little sister Ella." Ella smiled brightly at Sam. I looked away and adjusted the drapes as tears fell again. That first month without Sam was strange at home. Her room was quiet, but she maintained her promise to video call Ella every Tuesday and Friday at 7 o'clock. I heard Ella's giggling. Sam remembered previous conversations and asked Ella about her day, feelings, and plans. Ella told her about school and play audition preparation. Week 3 brought Ella Sam's college sweater, cookies, and a note reading, "Thinking of you." She wore it to school the next day, and Sam posted 3 loving emoticons on her photo. My husband and I were hopeful. Ella's therapist scheduled an October parent meeting and opened Ella's file on her desk across from us in her office. Their new relationship was cautious but honest and blossoming. Ella reported a significant decline in anxiety over the past 3 months, as well as better sleep, eating, and socializing. The therapist remarked that Ella was gaining trust and believing she deserved space in her family. Ella spent years being invisible, according to the therapist. Play acting involves conscious visibility, a big step. We drove home and called Ella that night. She was scared but wanted to try. We pushed her to audition and offered to attend every show if cast. She practiced her monologue in the living room while we watched. Her voice shook but got stronger. Ella came home from auditions the following week reporting she'd played the lead character's best friend in 4 scenes and 15 lines. Her husband spun her. Sam raved. Since August, weekly couples therapy on Thursday afternoons had paid off. Our therapist encouraged us to evaluate how the disaster had affected our marriage. My spouse talked first and said he was closer to me than in years. After my husband declined the promotion, I delegated more at work and stopped bringing documents home on weekends. Our daughter's life was known from family dinners and school festivities. The therapist nodded and said our partnership had grown. Her next question was harder. Could we forgive ourselves for missed years? My husband cried. I took his hand and told him we couldn't erase the past, but we could change the future. He nodded and gripped my hand. The therapist stated rehabilitation wasn't linear. Bad days were unavoidable, but commitment to change was crucial. Thanksgiving morning was bright and crisp. Ella helped Sam take her things home the night before. The house was packed again, but pleasantly so. Sam made mashed potatoes and Ella made green bean casserole. My husband cooked the turkey. My spouse suggested we take turns sharing our gratitude. Sam said she was grateful for second chances and a family that didn't give up on her even though she didn't deserve it. Ella thanked us for her voice and space, and my husband thanked us for our family and ability to change. I was glad for them all and for being honest. After dinner, Ella and Sam played board games in the living room and won 2 of 3. They chatted and laughed about a vacation from years ago. As everyone prepared for bed, I looked at my family in the hallway. We weren't cured and may never be. Our tale will always include those 4 years of grief, but we tried and chose each other daily. That delighted me now. Despite their ineffectiveness, I like serious stories.